Hey, welcome up, listeners, back to the Overwatch podcast. Chad here, Evan sitting here talking about just how the show went before we handle some business. But what do you think about it? It was our two-parter today, our first two-parter.
Today's episode, I think, was... I mean, we're getting better and better at this. I think
it's getting smoother.
You know, I think we have good intentions with this podcast, and today's PTSD episode was... we didn't want to open up our episode 1 about the PTSD. We kind of wanted to lead into it, but I think it went really well.
Right.
Two amazing guests. We had Armando Trujillo from the local vet center, talking about the different services they offer, and then we had Julio Torres, our good brother. They're both good brothers of ours.
Oh, totally.
Talking about his service animal training.
I think because we're friends with them mainly. It started maybe through the vet center. I know for sure. Like for you said specifically, you met those guys first at the vet center, and I a lot of my dealings with both of them because I worked at the vet center for a period of time here in Bakersfield, so I get to know them that way. But being friends with them, you rarely hear them talk the way they did today on the show about things. You're more smoking and joking,
right.
Shooting the shit.
To actually see them and they're professional.
But just, like so professionally locked on about it, and the passion that both of them had for helping veterans, turn around that kind of the runaway train.
I think after last week's episode about the stolen valor, this kind of brought it home a little bit, and we joked around a little bit. It's a good episode.
Yeah, it's good.
It's a good one.
It was good. On that note, let's talk about the people that brought us this episode, right? And it's something I think we're going to talk about in the future a little bit is all the loans that are out there, and one of them is the VA home loan, which in theory is guaranteed, but I know a lot of guys run into some hurdles when they're looking to get that started. But we've got the connection for you right here, and it's Mike and Sherry George at Agape Mortgage. And Mike and Sherry, I can testify to, are just great folks and really, really passionate about helping really anyone, but veterans specifically. They've been helping for over a decade. They're local here in Bakersfield and Kern County. And they're backed by the power of the Sierra Pacific Mortgage Companies, which is one of the largest in the nation. So it's not just some rinky-dink operation. They got some say. So when you're ready to look for a home and you want to get that VA home loan approved, you go and see Mike and Sherry at Agape Mortgage to get pre-approved for that VA loan and have that confidence that you need to really find the home for you. To find out more about them, visit their website at www.agapemgtco.com. I'll spell the whole thing out now. It's www.agapemgtco.com, or by calling them, which might be easier, at 661-324-2427. And the total package here, we have another sponsor, Linda Benalis with the Bakersfield Real Estate Group, another, like Mike and Sherry, she's been with us for all the shows. And Linda knows everything there is to know, again, about the VA home loan and how that whole process works for a veteran buying a home. She can find that perfect home for you that fits you and your family, because we all have got different size broods. Some of us have cable, some of us don't, so we have more kids or less kids.
Some of us have 1 kid, some of us have 5.
Practice makes perfect, though, right? The 5th one's going to turn out real good. So for more information, check out Linda's personal website at lindabenalis.com. It's LindaBanales.com. Or call the Bakersfield Real Estate Group at 661-368-3770. All right, and again, we have a little bit of our other sponsor for today's episode, who brought us our guests, Armando Trujillo and Julio Torres, is real estate agent Terry Bender with Golden Empire RE/MAX. Terry is a friend of mine, and she'll treat you right. Again, if you're looking for a home, she knows how to find it, and she can put you in it. So to find out more about Terry, give her a call at 661-330-6778. And that's it for the business. I mean, I think we've teased him enough, right?
Yeah, man. Hey, this is a great episode, guys. Look forward to it. Cue the intro music.
When a new enemy attacked America on the morning of September 11th, 2001, they had unknowingly awoken a sleeping giant.
From all over the nation, men and women left their family and friends, their lives and their home, and answered the call to arms.
They came from north, south, east, and west. They became soldiers, Marines, sailors, airmen, and Coast Guardsmen.
As of today, hundreds of thousands of Americans have served for what is now their nation's longest war.
More and more of them are returning home, fighting new and personal wars on many different fronts.
But they are not alone, and they are not forgotten. Their battles are our battles. And while they fight these battles,
we are their Overwatch.
All right, everybody, fall in. Thanks again for joining us, listening to Overwatch. I'm Chad Man, joined again once by my brother Joe, my brother Evan. Today's our fourth episode. Pretty excited you guys are here listening. Hey, if this is your first time listening, we're here for one reason, man, to talk about important issues facing all veterans. But at the same time, we're going to laugh while we're doing it, have some jokes, meanwhile putting out some good information. We're going to kind of change the way veteran podcasting goes. I mean, we want to have some fun, but make sure when you leave, you have a few laughs, maybe you shed a tear, maybe you definitely you walk away with some good information. Today we're talking about one of the vast, most common issues that a lot of us know all too well, PTSD. All right? We have two amazing guests joining us. Today we have Wesley joining us. He's been on two of our podcasts so far, episode 1 and episode 3. And we got Mr. Armando Trujillo. Who is a what's your exact title? What's your exact title at the vet center?
I'm an outreach worker.
An outreach worker over at the vet center. I didn't even know what a vet center was until I pretty much got out of the Army. I always thought it was just a VA and then vet clinics and whatnot.
Actually, a lot of people, as I worked there for a little bit too, and a lot of people call up asking for veterinarian services. So like they ask for shots. They call up, do you have guard right or whatever flea tick control medicine is? No, it's not that kind of.
I didn't even know my first week that was where I was spayed and neutered. Was that wrong?
Welcome.
Was that wrong?
No.
So welcome to the show, brother. He's a good friend of ours. He's the brother of ours, a good friend of the show, and he's going to put out some good information. Pretty much tell you guys what vet centers are, the different programs he does, and different things that can help guys and gals getting out the military who are suffering from PTSD or just having transition issues. And then in the second hour, it's a two-part issue. This episode had to. I said issue, didn't I?
You did. You have issues.
Well, it is an issue.
It is
the issue that we're dealing with in this episode.
I have a lot of issues.
Does the issue have an issue?
But in this episode, it's a two-part because I don't think we can really clear up and talk too much about PTSD in 45 minutes to an hour. So in the second half, we're going to be joined by Julio Torres, another one of our brothers who some of you guys, if you've listened or if you watched the show, he's been on episode 1 and 3 as well. He's our local service dog trainer, and he's going to talk to us about the benefits of that and how that can help guys with PTSD and TBI and other ailments out. I take my dog there. Joe takes his dog. I know Wesley's been there with his in the past. So it's going to be a good show today, guys. All right, PTSD. All right, so one topic that if you've been diagnosed with it, there's really no correct place to start talking about it, right? I mean, it's such a big... I like to think of it as like that ball that chases Indiana Jones as he's running down that tube. I mean, you're always trying to escape it, but it's always like right behind you. I mean, everyone's different.
Start the plane!
Dr. Jones! Dr. Jones!
What was that guy's name? Shortstop?
Wasn't he in Goonies too? He was Data. Data and Goonies.
And then Temple of Doom.
Temple of Doom. Dr. Jones!
Which I think Temple of Doom is often just gets a bad rep. I mean, monkey brains.
They had the video game. Did you ever play the video game in the 80s? They had the Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom. Anybody?
No.
No. Anybody? Crickets?
No.
Yeah, too old.
Anybody around in the 80s?
Anyway, so West.
So the thing is that PTSD, man, it sucks, man. It's not a reward. You don't go around bragging about it. I mean, some people do, but it's not.
We talked about that last week.
Yeah, that might go back to. I was just thinking that might go back to last week's episode on
Stolen Valor.
On Stolen Valor. It's like, oh yeah, I got the PSD, man.
Yeah.
I got the PSD, the PDIS, and
It sucks, man, and it's not anything that's pretty, and it's everyone has different reactions to it. We'll talk more about that. The proper dictionary term for it, and this is funny, I looked it up last night. It says a mental health condition triggered by experiencing or seeing a terrifying event. Duh. Okay. So I started researching more, and I've already known some stuff, having been through behavioral health in a warrior transition unit and done my research with them and just on my own. So I found a story of an ancient Greek historian. Now deal with me with this name, okay? It's Gorgias. 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 I don't know. Whatever.
Gorgeous. Gorgeous.
Okay, this dude lived from 43 to 376 BC, right? And listen to what he said. Pay close attention. He said, "For the things we see have a nature that does not depend on our will. As soon as some see fearful things, they abandon their present composure in present time. Thus, fear quenches and banishes resolution. For this cause, many have fallen into vain toils, terrible sicknesses, and hard-to-heal madness. I thought that was pretty deep for a dude that lived, thousands of years ago, right? I mean, that pretty much sums it up in his kind of way of writing it. It's been called a lot of things through the years. It's been called irritable heart, shell shock, combat exhaustion, nostalgia, soldier's heart, and hysteria. Another story, in World War I, a researcher named Malias Kolpin, this guy went around talking to soldiers after the trench warfare, which was in itself a brutal way of war. Okay? He asked this one soldier coming back, he said, explain your first experience fighting in the trenches and dealing with all that. I mean, this is the first time tanks were being used. I mean, that was just a totally new set of warfare. And the soldier said, this is what he wrote about what the soldier said. He said, the soldier seemed to relive his memory with an almost hallucinatory vividness, ducking as he described to me the shells coming in, blinking and crying as he was describing his friends dying next to him. So this isn't new. It's not like this just happened with, Operation Enduring Freedom and Iraqi Freedom. It might seem like it because it's more common, it's more discussed, but it's not new. It's been around since we started swinging clubs at each other, since we started cooking meat over fire, since we started, defending our territories and our women. We started swinging sticks at each other, and I'm pretty sure, some kind of like post-traumatic stress evolved. It's been around since the beginning of warfare. The symptoms include avoidance, negative changes in mood and thinking, aggressiveness, always being on alert, lack of sleep, lack of trust. I don't trust anybody in this room, by the way. Just joking.
No, it's not though.
Hopelessness, feeling numb, the inability to think positive. So it sounds real negatory, and it really is. I mean, a lot of the symptoms, there's more symptoms than that, but...
and I think for the purpose of this show, it's also important for us to note that none of us in here are doctors, and we're just going to give firsthand accounts of what our experience is with this thing, right? and so we're not out there to diagnose anybody or belittle anybody else's experience in that. It's just that we have. I don't know. We've all been around a lot of veterans. Yeah. We've all seen a lot of situations, so we have our own views, our own takes on that, and that's probably what we're going to express more. When you were given that criteria and we're talking about, or the description of it, I was thinking back, and in some way, shape, or form, the PTSD's got to be. It has to be formed by what we consider to be normal.
Right. Yeah.
Because in this day and age, we're not even connected with where our food comes from. And so, for my 11-year-old daughter, if she was to walk by the next door neighbor's house and saw a pig hanging from a tree being slaughtered, she might have bad dreams from that. And someone would say, oh, she has PTSD. And she might exhibit the symptoms of that for a while. And so if you go back 2,000 years where they lived and died with... daily events that are much more what we would all call dramatic or traumatic.
They were raised on it, so
right.
It didn't cause
so that's a little bit different. It's just a thought I had that so everybody's stressor, if you will, according to the DSM-5 triggers, they're all going to be a little bit different, right?
No, exactly. I was just trying to point out, how just it's been around for a long time.
I think that's something that now it's such too that we've touched on before in our other episodes, but the population, the percentage of the population that is a veteran or that has been exposed to something, and it's not limited to the military at all. PTSD is out there with people with house fires and anything really.
Sexual traumas, all that stuff.
But I think if you look back to World War II, when pretty much your percentage was on the other side of the spectrum with military age males, it was like everybody. And you all experienced it, so it was more common, and so it was less something. It was less that normal. It was less something to complain about in a way, I guess. And whereas now, it is so much more abnormal for us that are dealing with PTSD that it sticks out a little bit more.
Right.
Also, I think it's more of a taboo also now. it's on the media, it's on the news, it's this, it's that, it's everywhere.
Well,
everyone wants to know
more
about
centralized
PTSD,
anyway. Yeah.
Well, look at like autism too, or things like that. There's so much more media about this. That used to just be a kid who was excitable, who was an excitable boy.
Yeah, like everybody thinks they know something about PTSD or all that trash.
Mental health is definitely a much more common issue to be discussed. Yeah.
Yep.
Well, I think we have with modern psychology. Is it psychology or? Yeah.
That works for me.
I get philosophy and psychology.
No, definitely psychology. Yeah, definitely psychology.
My grunt mind can't really. Say
Philosophy is I think, therefore I have PTSD, and psychology is I was hit upside the head, therefore I have PTSD. How's that?
TBI.
And TBI.
Psychiatrist here, take this.
And the blink.
I'm more confused now. But so I mean that sums it up. I mean real quick, Armando, what working at the vet center. That's probably the most common. I mean, got people come in. That's probably the most common thing you see because there's counselors at the vet center. You want to tell us a little bit about what the vet center is and what the difference is between the VA clinic and then what it is you do?
The vet center is the Department of Veteran Affairs. It is the mental health side of the VA that deals strictly with combat PTSD, military sexual trauma, and bereavement. So it's more community-based. It's separate from the hospitals and clinics for a specific reason. You're focusing strictly on combat PTSD. Like we were discussing, PTSD can come from a vehicle accident, a training accident, an assault. So you'll have other veterans out there suffering from that PTSD from those events. But we strictly focus on the combat PTSD for the vets and their families.
So someone that was a veteran that was in a car accident and now they're having trouble driving, they wouldn't come to the vet center.
No, they could come to the vet center initially, and this is our mission is we want to accept every veteran. Why? Because we want to introduce them to what PTSD is. The reason is, and we refer them out to other places, whether it be the clinic. The benefit of the vet centers is that the counselors are veterans. It's not a psychiatrist or a psychologist that's only been behind a book and a desk. This is actually a veteran giving you new coping mechanisms, educating you on why you have PTSD, why your triggers are what they are. Typically, from just our observations, like we said, none of us here are doctors, it's more of how the brain functions. So you were talking about early, the bat swinging, it all comes from the way the brain functions. It has those memories, it has those sights, those smells, those songs. So I try to help the vets saying, look, it's no different from someone who was in a vehicle accident down the street. The next time they get in the car, they're having anxiety getting in that car. They hear a tire screech, they're going to have that flush feeling, they're going to have a flashback, they're going to get scared. That's why us as vets, we're no different when it comes to PTSD than anyone else on the street. So that's the things that we'll learn at a vet center. That's one of the main benefits, because we do what they call cognitive behavior therapy. It's talk therapy. Not strictly medication, here's a meds, have a great day, because
that doesn't always work.
It doesn't always work. And it can be help, but if you don't educate me on why I'm taking these pills, then you're not helping me out. So that's for what I've seen, one of the main benefits of the vet center, besides it being for you and your family members. Because when I returned in 2003 from Iraq, I had no idea these names that I know today: hypervigilance, irritability, isolation, and all that stuff. We don't think that as vets. We don't think that as military men. We don't think that as combat vets either. It's like I did my job, or you don't even think of it that in 2003 and any time before that. I started hearing in 2010, 11 where PTSD 12, 13 started being talked about more. So you had all those vets that you guys were there in 04, 05, and 06, and, dealing with that combat theater, which was different from 2003.
Right.
So you get a lot of vets that will drive by the vet center. I had a vet come in one time, and he's like, I drove by it for 3 years because I didn't want someone to call me schizophrenic. So we have our own barriers that come in, and it's and not to sound mean, but it's just ignorance, and that's just all of us. We don't know what a vet center is. We don't know how the difference from a hospital or a clinic. Everybody.
Now, is it a clinic type setting, or how are vet centers set up?
Vet centers are more community based, so they're separate from a clinical site, and so specifically, the Bakersfield Vet Center is more of a living room setting. You have tables sitting there, chairs sitting there. You have one vet who works the front desk, and the desk is a nice office desk, not a counter where you have to come in and slide your card and give me your last four. And
right, it's not a medical clinic or whatever.
Right.
So no lab coats or cough tests or anything like that. Right.
formal names, no titles. Typically, the counselors are veterans, all the way around. You may have some that are not, and also everybody working in the front are veterans. Typically, veterans who are work studies. So that means they're going to school, they're taking advantage of the opportunities, and they're working around vets. So you're walking into a familiar environment that's, because active duty, would you go on base that said mental health building? No, you wouldn't.
Right. So
when you walk outside and you're going into the vet center, it's walking into another building where everybody in there has been through it or understands it. It's not manned or staffed by a bunch of civilians going, here comes another vet. These are actually our brothers and sisters coming in, and that's the type of welcoming atmosphere that we try to provide there.
For me is I'm no longer my wife anymore, but one of the issues that we had is that I went through the whole process. I went through anger management, I went through therapy stuff with Joe. Actually was my counselor, but nobody explained anything to my ex-wife. Nobody told her anything. So basically, she didn't have the same tools that I had. Do you guys offer that there?
Yeah, and that's one thing. Just like I said, we don't connect. We don't know these words as a young vet getting out. I was 24 when I got out of the Marine Corps as a sergeant. We don't know these terms. So why would our spouses or family members or anyone else know those terms? And so that's why at the vet center it's free and it's confidential. Yeah, we are separate from the regular VA. And that's why we are available for active duty members too. And it's not really talked about, but through outreach, I do share. Hey, it is because you have a person who's a 4-year term, right? They already went to combat multiple times within the first 2 tours. Well, that means in the next 2 years that they're still in the service, they're going to be dealing with PTSD symptoms. The same way they kicked in once I got out. I was drinking, I was fighting, I was isolating myself. Some people are self-coping, one way or another. But if someone does that while they're in the service, they're going to either knock out a senior, right? They're either going to be in trouble for a DUI or drug use because they're coping. Well, now they get other than honorable. So they could have sought the services during that time when no one's telling them. So it's just, that's what typically happens. So, you want to educate them and their family members. Their family members end up becoming a support system. So.
I'm curious still more about kind of the facility because I think that's a big thing for people. They don't want to go to a doctor's office. And so I know for our vet center here in Kern County, which is in Bakersfield, right off of Golden State Highway, that there are people veterans that come in and they'll just hang out at the vet center. They don't even have an appointment that day, right?
Yeah.
Like ping pong.
It's more of the, like we call it sometimes MWR, out here. We have, and every vet center is a little different as far as their design. Here in Bakersfield, I think we're really blessed to have a backyard where we have a game room where it has ping pong, pool table, indoor basketball, a few of the foosball, and then on the outside of there we have horseshoes and basketball court and things. So and above ground gardens and a barbecue. So
we had to use Wesley's legs for the horseshoes until we actually got the stakes in the back.
Everything there is donated. So that's again says a lot about this county, really. But I tell the vets, you don't necessarily have to come in the first day for a counseling session,
right?
Because I'll talk to a vet that's about to leave the service and I said, look, it doesn't kick in tomorrow. You might be experiencing some things right now. You might see a couple of the signs that we're talking about, but it might not kick in as soon as you walk out of the base. It might not kick in a year later. I have a vet that just came in 3 years after he's been out, and he said, you know what, I finally got tired of hearing this, and typically it's hopefully not, it's not where they get in trouble and that's like the last thing, because typically that's what we've seen. Either a vet gets in trouble and that's when the courts send them down or refer them over, they lose a job. We're out there telling you it's there just to come and be social with other vets, get that camaraderie back. Because you'll leave a base in Texas, you come to Bakersfield, well, no one in your unit is in Bakersfield, so you're alone, right? And we've all felt that feeling of isolation until we've actually met each other. And now, that's a beginning point to learn, a beginning point to just get away from the civilian workplace, school place, sometimes even maybe the house, just a break.
Yeah.
Where everyone speaks the same language.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, just for point of reference, how many people in this room met at the vet center?
I was just going to say that. I mean,
we all met. We all met.
Ended up,
like I said, I think on every episode almost, I met you guys at the vet center. I mean, I met Wesley before even getting off active duty, and that's where I met Joe. Joe was my counselor as well. I met you.
He was a terrible counselor, though.
Oh, yeah, it was terrible.
Armando, I met you.
You guys are all messed up.
I don't have that job anymore. I'm just saying.
But you bring up a good point, though, brother. Being on active duty and seeking help for behavioral health, it's not easy.
No.
And especially being on the line. And I'm not taking away from anybody, who's not combat arms. But, you see, you got to deal with things like you're worried about your leaders treating you different when you go. Because the leaders, they'll tell you at safety briefs, and, your commanders and stuff will tell you, hey, help's out there, go to behavioral health.
Give us your gun.
Yeah. Well, right, and then that's what happens. Is that as soon as you go, what's the first thing they do? Is they take away, they take away your weapon. Suddenly now you can't go train. Now you're out there on ammo detail.
I'm holding your shoelaces.
Exactly.
They put you in the supply room with some crap.
Yeah,
It's a different
exactly.
culture. It's a different culture inside the military.
Guys worry about duty, pride, embarrassment, letting the team down. So it's very difficult. And like you said, unfortunately, majority of the time, guys that end up going, they cross that line. I raised my hand because that was me, but it worked out for the better. Real quick, this research I did on the Walter Reed Army Institute of Research, they published an article in the New England Journal of Medicine in 2010. It said 86% of active duty soldiers, both the Marines and Army, so they only interviewed the Marines and Army, with the symptoms of PTSD, said that what's up, man?
That's the only ones that matter, right?
I was waiting for something. But
It didn't strike any of us as odd. That makes sense.
I just saw that, but I'm like, but 86% of those guys that they interviewed realized they had PTSD. Like they were like, okay, yeah, I probably have it. Here's where it gets interesting. Only 45% of those 86%. I don't know the math on that, but half of them dudes almost.
It's almost half.
Okay, just under half.
Roughly.
All right, GW.
Right 30, add 100.
Divide the two,
All right, so but basically almost half them guys actually went and seeked help. That stood out to me. That's why I wanted to quote that real quick, because you brought up a good point. So the other 60% get off active duty, and then they go right into what you were saying. That's a lot of people.
Wow.
I don't know the math. I'm not even going to attempt to do it because I'll end up banging my head around. But but that's a lot of dudes and females as well in the military. So, that's almost like a tidal wave. I like to envision it as like a tidal wave of people coming back to society with these symptoms. In places like the vet center, that's like a saving grace almost.
The hardest job of that is trying to find that.
It's getting them in. It's getting them in. And it's this like... That's the very crux of the problem, is that the pride and the pride really about it and everything. It's just like
there is no coincidence when you look at the unemployment rate for veterans is higher than the national average. The divorce rate's higher. Suicide rate of about 22 a day is what we're still sticking with on number wise. And so there is no coincidence, and it's just got to be that I've never encountered someone that was getting help with PTSD that's been had one of those extreme cases where they've become a suicide or so what you have, I think, is or are folks that are not either not identifying themselves or they don't feel the freedom or the luxury to be able to go into a vet center and talk, or they don't have what we have just in the camaraderie outside of any of those.
Yeah, and I feel like it's a tricky problem, especially for something that the government's going to try to do, because being responsible to the taxpayers, they need numbers that they can return back to Congress, basically, and they need proof, and it's so hard to, in anything that I've been a part of here in Kern County, trying to get veterans, especially the young ones. The older guys tend to be a little more out there. They've had more time. Maybe their family lives, their job lives have slowed down, so they have more time. But trying to get young, these OIF, OEF veterans to come anywhere and show up and do anything is next to impossible.
Yeah.
And the funding all depends on how many numbers the VA can get in there, and so it's just this conundrum, dilemma, so to speak.
Good word.
Yeah, thank you. It's a quagmire of sorts.
Spell it. Spell it.
Which one?
Giggity.
Quagmire. Giggity, I don't know. But so you get that problem, and I feel like sometimes really the best thing to be done too is something that's just finding friends with the same thing, and that's huge. And that's I think, like you said, one of the best things about the way the vet center is set up to have that kind of, what do you call it, living room atmosphere. It's because you can make a friend in there and just hang out with that friend and like do preventative maintenance on each other.
Well, I had one story of vet. I walked into the vet center coming from outside, and I was told, "Hey, you need to go talk to this guy." And there was a Marine outside, and what happened with this Marine was exactly what we were talking about, earlier, about after your 2 years, or your first 2 years, he got in trouble. He had been in combat multiple times. And what happened in the Marine Corps? They stripped him. They took everything. They took his rank. They kicked him out. So as a Marine, let alone anyone, that's your identity, right? That's
everything.
That was everything you had, and now you're nothing. And this guy had that feeling, and I knew what it was once he told me that. It was like, hey, they took everything. Me personally, I was a Marine, then I went to corrections. So I was on the on the path, thinking of things I was supposed to be doing, right? Served, went to work, okay, cool. But when I lost that, I was nothing. And so I knew that feeling, and I saw it. And as soon as I said it to him, he looked at me and I finally coined it with him. Like, yeah, man, that was my identity. I said, dude, you're a Marine. You already went to combat. No one could ever take that away from you. So coming into a vet center doesn't take what you did away. It doesn't make you anything different. And like I told him, I don't wear a shirt or a hat that says I have PTSD. And I even tell myself I don't have PTSD. So I don't use it as an excuse. Like, that's something I learned personally. Some of the counseling that I had gone through and kind of picked up things here and there. That was something personally that I did because I know, I was being a jerk. Well, no, I can't say because I had PTSD. I was just being a jerk. That's something I learned myself.
Okay.
But this vet came out, was distraught outside, and he had an appointment in an hour. And when he returned in that hour, one of the work studies was in his unit. I was in the other room, and I heard this guy that was crying not too long ago, just happy. Oh my God, who are you? What do you do? What are you doing? It was someone from his unit, I think down at 29 Palms, here in Bakersfield, in this vet center. And I actually, that guy just walked in last week, and that's the first time I seen him. Came in, hey man, I got my job, I feel good. Even looked at me and said, hey, thanks. And I was like, oh yeah, I remember you now. Those are the little things. And I always tell the vets, you coming in here is the first step, to a lot. You'll see in 1 year, 2, 3, and 4, look back, trust me.
In my experience, those kind of encounters happen all the time, at the Bakersfield Vet Center.
Yeah. It was a complete accident. Also, a friend of mine, I will not say names, because of the privacy of the vet center. But same guys were in the same company. He was 3rd platoon, I was 2nd platoon, and we made the 0506 deployment to the Triangle of Death in Iraq. And when he was shot, they shot the heck out of him. And I was one of the guys that went in the vehicle, picked him up, and took him to the aid station. And I see him there. He looks very familiar. I had a few words with him, and as he was leaving, I asked him, where he served and who he was with, and it happened to be we're in the same company at Fort Campbell, Kentucky, and serving the same time. It was.
That's amazing. See, stories like that.
I had a guy I went to boot camp with when I was working as a work study there. He
really?
Walked in, yeah.
It's amazing. And it's those things that until you walk in, and that's why I invite the vets. Don't come in for an appointment. Just come in, check it out. We're a resource center also on top of the council. We know what agencies are out there, whether federal government or private or nonprofits that are actually out there to provide other services that the vet center doesn't. Just like, Wounded Heroes Fund, things like that. So we actually know that type of information. We can help them with referrals for their claims, education benefits. We know what schools are paying what BAH and other little things because we've all been through the process, whether it be work study, bulk rehab. There's so many different benefits out there that is typical veteran getting out. You really only know about your GI Bill and maybe a home loan, but there's so much more out there that you may be eligible for, and that's a good place to start as vet centers. So.
Go ahead.
Oh, one of the things is that people focus on the symptoms of PTSD and this and all that trash, right? But the thing is that for me is that I went through a lot of those feelings, but I didn't think I had PTSD. and until I lost my legs, and I was seeing an actual psychologist at Walter Reed, and because getting startled and being this and being that, I didn't have any of that stuff. I was just whatever. I caught it.
You almost got it.
Wesley's wreaking havoc on our editing abilities.
We're gonna slip up. It's all right, but that was funny.
But the thing is that even if you're not having any of those symptoms, come in there and talk to somebody, hang out, seek other veterans, because whether you do or you don't have that thing, then you still get to have somebody to count on when you do have those issues or an issue that comes up. So that's the biggest thing. So not everybody listening to this is from Kern County or lives in Kern County. Where would a veteran in Kansas find a vet center?
All right, if you go to the website, www.va.gov/RCS. That's Readjustment Counseling Services. What pops up, it'll say vet centers. There's a tab on there that says location. You can put in your zip code. It'll give you all the nearest VA facilities, whether it be vet center, hospital, or clinic. So,
and there are quite a few of them, right?
There's 300 vet centers across the nation, including Hawaii and Guam. Again, same pretty much staff.
For our listeners in Guam.
Someday.
I'm headed to Hawaii.
But yes, that's a good website to find out your local vet centers. Go in there, fill it out, find out what they got going on, what local benefits are available, local services. They all vary per state and county too. So
now, what if someone typically any type of VA service they require you to have like your DD-214 or something showing that you were in the military? Are you going to need that your first time you go to the vet center?
At a vet center, no. A vet center is a little, like I said, it's a little different than a hospital or clinic or the county veteran services office. They're going to require your DD-214 verification you're a vet. At the vet center, we know how much of it, how difficult it may be just to even walk in the door.
Right.
So we're not going to go, hey man, you got your D214, got your veteran card? All right, well, have a good day. No, we're going to take you in. Typically, vet centers are staffed and equipped to do walk-ins also. Vet centers aren't a crisis. I'm trying to think of the word. You would know crisis
Intervention Center.
Intervention Center.
Right.
So it's more of, we've had vets come in maybe a crisis. We don't tie them up, strap them down, put them in a rubber room at that time, things like that.
Well, we did once, but I'm not there anymore.
Yeah. That's the reason, but we going to do that over.
It's all fun and games, right, Chad?
It's also like reasons you're not there.
Yeah. No, and it's so what we do there is more of we can stabilize a veteran and call, if there's a crisis issue, we call a crisis team locally. But typically a vet center, even if it's a walk-in, we've had vets that had an appointment and they're saying, hey man, go ahead and give him my hour, man, he needs it, or things like that, he or she.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the the feel of the vet center. No DD-214 required in time. Yes, the vet center will require it, just so we can, it's like anything else, create your file and go from there, which is separate from the VA. So a lot of times I tell veterans, you don't have to open a claim for PTSD. If you're in fear of, your own weapons and you think that's something you're worried about,
right,
you don't have to necessarily open a claim for PTSD, but you can still come in and seek the benefits of talking to a counselor.
Yeah.
And to me, I'd rather you have that and come in for that than have a 30% rating, because we didn't do it for,
So if you're currently in law enforcement,
right,
and you think you're experiencing some of these things from your time in service, the vet center is a great place to go. Get counseling, get help. They have no reporting requirements to your chain of command at the police department
or active duty.
Or active duty. So that's a great place to go.
We have a lot of people in uniform that come in, that I know are officers, and so they're seeking the benefits of actually coming in.
Right.
I had a lot of fellow brothers when I worked in the prison department that now do come in because they knew what happened to me.
Yeah.
They know why I'm no longer there. So that was a testimony to them to where now hey, I'm coming in because I know what could happen, and I want you to keep your jobs. I want you to stay, family members. I want you to keep, make it through school.
Yeah.
Until we address those issues, it's kind of hard to do those things.
And really, I mean, it's only fair to our families that we go do some of these things. I mean, if your wife can't nudge you in the middle of the night because you're going to punch her out because you wake her up, I mean,
or if your kids are afraid to talk to you. I mean,
Yeah.
you know what I mean?
I mean, we learn, right? We learn tools.
Yeah.
Obviously, yeah. Like, and I tell people, it doesn't go away. The
Right.
stuff doesn't go away. We just learn how to deal with it differently. I mean, I remember getting up at 5 o'clock. If I went home, that was a bad thing. I went home to I'm a single dad, so I split my time with my kids. And if I went home to my apartment at 5 o'clock, that's like, I mean, that's bad news. I'd wake up to a bunch of tall cans there, and I feel like crap the next day. So it wasn't productive. Until I learned to stay busy, until I learned to, hey, go and get involved with this event or that event, or, you know, kind of learn new coping mechanisms. It was rough. So, you know, those are things that come from hanging around each other and in the vet center. So
One of the things I'm learning is being around all you guys is different. Like, I see what everyone's different. Like I said earlier, everyone has different coping mechanisms. Everyone has different ways of dealing with different situations. You know, when I got out, I got to admit, when I first went to the vet center after a week of being out, I felt like a little kid thrown in the deep end of a pool. I was excited. I was that kid, you know, you see those memes you see those memes online of like, I got my DD214 and it shows some dude running all fast. That was me. But then it hit me and I was like, oh, what am I going to do? But I fortunately got to meet all you guys, and I got to see what works for Wesley, what works for Joe. You know, I got to see everything at the vet center, you know, meet Evan, you know, and I learned a lot from that. And that's what's beautiful, I think, about the vet center, is that you see other veterans and how they're dealing with things. You know, you see a guy walking around with prosthetics. You see a guy, you know, kind of quiet guy walking around not talking too much. But then you eventually start talking to him, and you learn all kinds of different things. Yeah, that's me.
So I'm looking up DD214 memes now.
Memes?
Memes? Mimi?
That's what Julio calls it, memes.
And one other thing, just like you said real quick, because I know this is something a lot of vets think of, even combat vets, is like, look, I have my legs, I have my arms, I have all my body parts.
I'm fine.
You know, I'm fine. And no, those that's for those guys. Well, those are the things, like they call it, right, the unseen wounds or what's you know, whatever.
Unseen wounds.
The thing is, none of the, I've never heard anyone who's missing any limbs say, you guys don't deserve to be here, or
Exactly.
you know, this benefit's not for you. So
And the vet center is for readjustment counseling, right?
The other benefits you got.
No, but see, this one of the things I tell people. You know, for me, my issues don't come from losing my legs. I could give a crap about my legs.
Right.
You know, like whatever. You know, I don't care. You know, my issues with PTSD come from way before, from my 2 tours before that. You know, actually the tour where I lost my legs was kind of cakewalk. You know, but you know,
I need a sound effects board.
My issues come from stuff from before that. You know, my lack of care for a lot of things. You know, all that stuff. They all come from my 2 deployments for that stuff. So, you know, if I wouldn't gone on my 3rd deployment, and I still had my legs. You know, how would I'll be dealing with this stuff? I would walk in there still, you know. It doesn't matter whatever it is. You know, you can go to a place and not be judged, and that's what the vet center is about.
I think one of the biggest things we all suffer from the most, and in my case, it was a little bit more of a distant type, but it's that survivor's guilt. You know, I remember coming home in 2003. Fortunately, in the initial push, my unit did not lose anyone. I mean, that's more than I can say for a lot of people. And like I said, the other years, 4, 5, and 6, and so
we
on.
didn't either. The first 3, we didn't lose anyone.
Nothing. So it was weird because I left there thinking, hey, my job was done, right? So watching the news in those following years, I had no idea what PTSD was, symptoms, or anything. But I remember myself sitting there watching the news crying. And it was because I felt, one, I should be there. Those guys are dying doing the same thing I was doing. And so I know from a lot of people just talking, and I see their emotions, and it's strictly from just not thinking about the traumatic event that happened with that mortar going off. Okay, yeah, that was pretty scary, but that's not the part that hurts the most. It's the loss. And
I think we get those things of someone drops a plate or something, and we do that, but that's more reactionary. That's not even PTSD. That's just you get attuned to a certain way of living to survive in combat. Your brain is now wired differently. When a car backfires, it's not a car backfiring to you anymore. You know, it's it's some kind of small arms fire. But it's those deeper underlying ones that really, like, I know for me, it's like my biggest one I would say is to a fault, like not a lot of emotional depth. So which creates a problem with, like, I would say, with relationships with my family, well, my wife especially. Times that I'm supposed to feel, even if it's like a family member passing away or something, and I just don't register it like most people do, because having to pick up your rifle and continue on when someone you loved died, you have to learn to kind of compartmentalize those things, I think. And so that's always been the biggest one for me, is like just people talking, this person died, and I'm like, oh, that sucks, and then I think, well, you're an asshole. You don't, you have no sympathy for me, and it's not that I don't feel like you feel bad for people still, but it's just for some reason that I know for me, things that should register a bit more don't really.
And that's relationships a big.
That's a relationship killer, or can be, because
and that's where the readjustment comes, and that's why they call it readjustment counseling. I remember the first time I seen it, even working, I'm like, well, what does that mean? But being around there a little longer, it's readjusting back to civilian world, right? We all talk a common language when we're in the military. A word that might include the F word, every other word it's just common, and gets it done, right?
And you don't know his life.
But you work in the civilian world, someone might say, man, this guy is angry. Well, not really. It's just the way we talk and get things done. So same thing with that, readjusting and know, hey, you got to change that. Also little things with family members, like, I come across these examples, and someone may get upset if their wife didn't do this or fold their clothes away. That's a small example, but how long did they teach us to do that? How did they teach us to do that when we were in the Marine Corps or whatever branch we were in? It was by the numbers, and it was by repetitive. Did she have that training? And it's no. So those are little readjustment things that I picked up just from counseling. That has helped me a lot. Even dealing with anger, so everyone's going to have different things, but that's what readjustment means. So.
And one of the things that helped me a lot through my stuff wasn't the one-on-one sessions with Joe. It was actually the other stuff. One of the things that he did was what was your class called? Square pegs, round holes, or something. Oh yeah,
square peg and a round hole. Yeah, really just that idea that we do come from a different culture. You can't put a square peg in a round hole. But that idea is that when you enter the military, you do enter and you become accustomed to a completely different culture, a different society. And so we come back into what I call Circleville, the civilian society, and they have a way of doing things that we recognize because we grew up with it, so we speak the same language. But one of the big things being language is different. When I say, hey, we're going to leave tomorrow at 8 o'clock in the morning, I have now years of military experience behind me.
We're going to 8 on the road to Disneyland at 8 in the morning.
Right. and so I mean, everybody's in the car by 07:45, wheels are up at 08, and they mean, man, 8 o'clock, that sounds kind of good. Yeah, I'm going to get up, and 8 was my goal, and so we both speak English in our house, so we all speak English, but when I say 8, I have a completely different set of definitions.
7:45.
Yeah, that means I'm already checking into my first McDonald's for my bacon, egg, and cheese. Right, we're on the road. So anyway, hey, real quick though, Armando, if we do have listeners here in Bakersfield, in Kern County, and they want to get a hold of the Bakersfield Vet Center, how do they do that?
They can just call 661-323-8387. We answer the phone. We are the side of the VA answers the phone. That's a joke, but it is. We do answer. We are open late Wednesdays and Thursdays, and actually have a counselor on staff on Saturdays. So,
and we also do a local OIF group every 2 weeks, every other Wednesday, second and fourth Wednesday.
And that's just social. It's not group therapy or anything.
Bring cigars to be kind.
Yeah, Wesley's kind of like the ping pong dummy. We all beat up on him on the ping pong table.
Well, Armando, brother, thank you so much, man. This has been great. Part 1 of our PTSD episode,
really
man. Thank you so much, man. You're a brother of ours, and everybody, if you're listening, please heed that information and look up a vet center. If you're outside of Bakersfield, go to the website, look up a vet center in your area.
Very eligible, disease-free,
Armando Trujillo.
Mostly disease-free.
Armando Trujillo.
Armando Trujillo.
Ladies, come get them.
Some guys.
You can also get
Guys.
a hold of Armando at 661-323-8387.
All right, brother. Well, thank you very much.
guys.
Hey,
Appreciate
this completes part 1 of the PTSD episode. This is Chatman out.